called up, so we'll move along here. I know the time is limited, but I thank you all for being here and for this extremely important topic, and one that we just have to confront as a state and a nation. And I appreciate the applause, but I hope it was for my good friend Dick Durbin, Senator Durbin from Illinois, who is the original sponsor of the DREAM Act. And I just asked him, I thought it was just a couple, 3 years ago. He said it was 12 years ago when he first started on the DREAM Act. So Senator Durbin, thank you so much. This morning, I'm reminded of a famous incident involving President Franklin Roosevelt. He was addressing the daughters of the American Revolution, and he proudly greeted them with the words, "My fellow immigrants." Likewise, this morning, 2 United States senators are hosting this forum. We are both sons of immigrant mothers, and so we proudly greet you with the words, "Our fellow immigrants." Welcome to the many dreamers here, both on the stage and in the audience. For nearly 2 centuries, the waves of immigrants have come to Iowa to build their own lives and build a much better Iowa. My mother, as I said, was one of them. In 1921, she immigrated from a tiny village in a country that's now known as Slovenia. She arrived at the port of Boston with barely enough money to buy a one-way train ticket to Iowa, never to see her homeland again. But she was welcomed by Iowans with open arms and made a part of our society. But today our immigration system is broken. The vast majority of Americans know it. It doesn't work for immigrants who want to help build a future for themselves and for a better America. It doesn't work for our workers here who see their wages undercut by a shadow economy, and it doesn't work for our businesses who need a stable and quality labor supply. And the great majority of Iowans want a better system. They support an accountable reform that allows families to come out of the shadows, earn their citizenship by paying taxes, remaining employed, and contributing to their communities and the economy. That's why the United States Senate, I'm proud to say, passed the Border Security, Economic Opportunity, and Immigration Modernization Act of 2013, otherwise known as the Immigration Bill, on a strongly bipartisan basis. It improves border security, it requires employers to verify work authorization, it unites families, it offers an accountable solution to bring undocumented families out of the shadows into our communities and our economy. According to the Immigration Policy Center, the state of Iowa, our state, is losing $18 million a year in state and local taxes by not offering a pathway to citizenship. In 2010, new immigrant business owners in Iowa had total business revenue of $216 million. As I travel around Iowa, small towns and communities, I see so many new businesses, small businesses, Main Street businesses, opened up by our new immigrants to this country, to our state. Common sense immigration reform, according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, will add to our economy, and get this, it will reduce the deficit by nearly $1 trillion over the next 2 decades if we have immigration reform. President Obama, he met with us again this week, is eager to sign this bill into law. I'm hopeful the House of Representatives will take up the Senate bill and get it passed. And with that, I thank you all, and I'm going to turn to our leader on this issue. As I said 12 years ago, he's been on this a long time, our neighbor, Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois.
It is great to be in Ames, Iowa, home of Iowa State University, the alma mater of Tom Harkin. We do have a lot in common, a lot of corn and soybeans in our neighboring states, a lot of immigrants to our neighboring states who built it into what it is today in Iowa and in Illinois. And we have a broken immigration system. I think we know this. And it's time for us to face the reality that if we can fix this immigration system, we can build the American economy and we can do the right thing. 12 years ago, a young woman contacted my office in Chicago. Her name was Teresa Lee. Teresa was from Korea. Her mother and father brought her here at the age of 2. She lived in a very poor family. Her mom worked at a dry cleaning shop in Chicago. She, even though coming from poor circumstances, got a break. Something called the Merit Music Program gave her a chance to learn to play the piano. She wasn't good, she was great. And by the time she graduated from high school, she had been accepted at the Juilliard School of Music and the Manhattan Conservatory of Music. She was filling out the application with her mom and came to the line that said nationality, citizenship. And she turned to her mom and said, "What should I put there?" Her mom said, "I don't know. I brought you here when you were 2 years old and I never filed any papers." The young woman said, "What are we going to do?" And her mom says, "Let's call Durbin." So they called my office and we checked the law, and the law was very clear. Teresa Lee had to leave the United States for 10 years and then apply to come back. Didn't sound right to me. You know, a lot of us drove here to this meeting this morning. Some of you might have had passengers in the car, maybe even children in the car. If you get caught speeding, you don't expect the child in the back seat to also get a speeding ticket. That's what was happening to Teresa, and so many like her. Came here as a child, spent their lifetimes in the classrooms of America, pledging allegiance to the only flag they've ever known, singing the only national anthem they've ever known, and then learning that legally they weren't part of this country. So I introduced the DREAM Act 12 years ago. For her, for Teresa, and for a lot of people just like her. I want to tell you the end of the Teresa Lee story because it's great. 2 families in Chicago took pity on her and paid for her education. She graduated from Manhattan Conservatory of Music. She played in Carnegie Hall. She ended up marrying an American citizen jazz musician and became a citizen herself. And now she has just completed her PhD in music. We're a better nation because Teresa Lee is here. We're going to profit from her as we will from so many dreamers who bring so much, can bring so much to this country. Well, here we are today, and we are facing the DREAM Act and its future. There have been some characterizations of the DREAM Act that are just not fair. There have been things said about these young students and young people that just aren't fair at all. And that's one of the reasons we're in Ames, Iowa today. You're fair-minded people in Iowa, so are we in Illinois. You'll look at the facts honestly, and you want people to say honestly what they tell them. And what you're going to hear today is that these young people have so much to offer us. We included the DREAM Act in this comprehensive immigration reform bill. It was the strongest version of the DREAM Act ever written, and it will give these young people a chance to make a dramatic contribution to this country. I went to the floor of the Senate 54 different times to tell the stories of dreamers with color photographs. It used to be they wouldn't come forward and tell their stories because technically they were subject to deportation. But over the years, they stepped up and they realized if this cause was going to be one that won over America, America had to know who they really were. And they've done that. Sometimes at great risk. They could have been deported telling their stories, but they knew that there was no chance to move forward on this issue unless they were willing to take the risk. There hasn't been a single issue in American history or many other countries involving civil rights or human rights where young people didn't step up with the energy and the idealism that really led us to the right place in America. Their parents, they grew around the corner. Scared their parents many times because they were coming out and telling people who they were, but they didn't. And luckily we have a president who understands that. He passed this deferred action that deserves the money. He passed this deferred action deportation order, signed it, and gave them a chance to apply to get deferred action and to stay in America without fear of deportation under his executive order. About 500,000 have done so far. They've submitted their backgrounds to the government. They know that if they haven't graduated high school or have any serious criminal background, they have no chance whatsoever. That's written into the law. It's written into the executive order. So the suggestion that these are petty criminals or drug smugglers, it just doesn't square with the reality of the DREAM Act. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to come here today. You're going to hear from Eduardo Rodriguez. Tom's going to tell you his story, and Hector Salamanca, who's here. And they're going to tell you what life is like as a dreamer and what their dreams are for the future. That's what this is about. To really focus not only you and Iowa, but the nation on doing the right thing, fixing this broken immigration system in a just and fair way. As you'll find, this isn't an easy path, not for the dreamers or for anyone who steps forward. First, they have to register with the government. Second, they've got to pay a fine. It starts out at $500. It ends up being $2,000 before it's all over. They have to pay taxes on any dollar that they earn. And at the end of the day, at the end of 10 years, with no government benefits, they have a chance to become citizens. Almost 2/3 of the people that live in this congressional district support a path to citizenship. 2/3 of it support. It also turns out that it's good for America. Not just that we revalidate who we are and where we came from, but it's good for our economy. It's going to help us grow the economy, reduce our deficit, and grow jobs. You know, if anybody's surprised by that, take a look at who we are and where we are today. All the immigrants who came to this country from far-flung locations have made America what it is. Those people who ignore our legacy and basically our roots really ignore the values of this country. You know, we are better. I'll close by telling this story. I went back to my mother's hometown in Lithuania. Your Barkas, Lithuania, your Kaunas. She never got back. She never returned, but I did. And I saw the church, Catholic church, where she was baptized, and they showed me a well in the village where all the villagers drew their water even when she was there. And I thought about it for a moment, and I thought what it must have been like that night when the Kutkaita family called in all their relatives and friends for the big announcement. They had decided that they were going to leave and come to America. They heard about some Lithuanians who made it to a place called East St. Louis, Illinois, and they were doing pretty well. And so my grandfather said, I'm going there first, and if I can find a job, bring the kids. He left, found a job, called for my grandmother. She came with 3 children, including the first dreamer in my family, my 2-year-old mom. Came over on a boat, landed in Baltimore, somehow caught that train to St. Louis and got off at East St. Louis where I grew up. I think about that story because I wonder about the people who were sitting around that house that night when they made the announcement they were going to America. I'll bet you a nickel that a lot of them, when they left that house and started walking home, were shaking their heads, saying, what is wrong with this Kutkaita family? They are leaving their good home here, they're leaving their church, they're leaving their relatives, their family, their language, their culture, their dog, their cat, their chickens, and they're going to a place where they don't even speak the language. They'll be back. No, they never came back. That's my story. That's my family's story. That's America's story. There is something in our DNA about these immigrants who had the courage to get up and come here, really to fight against great odds, to succeed here. And thank goodness they did. That's who we are today, and we should celebrate it. We shouldn't apologize for it. We ought to build on it to make us an even stronger nation in this century. Thanks, Tom.
Dick, thank you very much for that, and thank you for your great leadership. Folks, I want to reassure Senator Durbin and anyone else who may be tuned in on this, that we Iowans are a welcoming people. We are a compassionate and caring people. We do not characterizing people with hateful, spiteful, degrading language. We believe that every human being has worth, and we believe those who want to come here to work to build a better life are not criminals. They are people who want to build a better life for themselves and their families, and we ought to be finding a way to help them do that here in America and here in the state of Iowa. Senator Durbin referred to this, but I want to make a point. There was a poll taken just this last Wednesday by something called the American Action Network that showed that 68% of the voters in this district, Iowa's 4th congressional district, support an earned pathway to legal status. And again, this poll was taken by the American Action Network. I said, who are they? Well, it's conducted by the Terrence Group, a Republican firm that did the polling here in this district, so that it wouldn't be seen as a bias one way or the other. In this district, 79% of the voters responding to this poll would support a plan that would allow a path to legalization. A path to legalization, 78%. And the poll said nearly 3/4 said that immigration reform is a very important issue. So 70% back a path to legal status. So it's overwhelming, even in this congressional district. Even in this congressional district, that people in this district want immigration reform. They want this mess cleared up. They want these young dreamers to have a part in our society. And just because one misguided person uses language that is degrading does not reflect what we believe in. Now let's hear from some dreamers here. Eduardo Rodriguez came to the U.S. from Mexico with his parents. He was 1 year old. Okay, shortly after, his family settled in Sioux County, Iowa. That's this congressional district, where Ed attended elementary, middle, and high school before going on to graduate from Northwestern College, a local private Christian university, with a degree in sociology. Since receiving his work permit through the DACA program, now we haven't talked about that, but we were in the DACA program. Ed has worked as a youth development manager leading after-school programs for at-risk youth in Sioux County. And then we'll call on Eduardo, and then we'll go to Hector Salamanca, is the youth outreach coordinator for the Immigrant Voice program at the American Friends Service Committee in Des Moines. After graduating from Dowling Catholic High School, again my alma mater, in 2011, and realizing that he was undocumented, he committed himself to joining the movement to pass humane immigration reform and helping the general Des Moines Latino community. Due to his tireless dedication, he was featured as one of 13 people to look out for in 2013 by the Des Moines Register, as well as winning the 2013 Warren E. Morrow Leadership Award. Hector is currently studying law, politics, and society at Drake University. He aspires to be an immigration lawyer, working with and helping the Des Moines immigrant community. We welcome you both here, and then after those two, we're going to hear from Lori Chesser, who is a senior attorney and chair of the immigration department at the Davis Brown Law Firm, a law firm with offices in both Ames and Des Moines, and Lori represents both individuals and businesses in immigration-related applications. And then we'll also hear from Nick Harrington, who is a union representative of the UFCW Local 222 in Sioux City. He became a union steward, but he left, went back to school, took business and marketing management, and then after his time in school, he returned to IVP in August of 2001. And in his time there, he was a union steward, an ergonomic monitor, a member of the safety committee, and he's worked in all the different areas, and now he's a union representative after 12 years. So we'll hear from Nick. And Reverend Barb Denon we'll turn to her, an ordained elder of the United Methodist Church, currently pastor of Trinity of United Methodist Church in Des Moines, and prior to that was the pastor of Las Americas Faith Community of the United Methodist Church for 11 years, a congregation of Latino immigrants. So we'll go down this road, and first of all, again, we're going to turn to Eduardo Rodriguez, and tell us your story.
First of all, I just like to say that I'm very thankful for this opportunity. I didn't tell a single soul until I was 21 that I was undocumented. So to be here and feel so supported and loved is just amazing, and it's a huge blessing. So thanks for everyone around this table. I guess my story is I was born in Valle de Bravo, Mexico, and my parents brought me over to the States when I was a year old. We settled in California for 3 years, but after that, we lived in Sioux County for the rest of my time here. That is my home. I grew up in Northern City, Iowa. I've been there since first grade until I graduated from college, and I love the cornfields, and I love even sometimes the smell, I know, but that is home. That is where I feel comfortable. And it's been great to see the way the community has changed over the years. When I first arrived there, it was me and my cousins who were the only Latinos at the elementary school. But as the community has changed and more newcomers have come, it's become something a lot different, and it's I think something that can be such a benefit to our communities, as we see almost 1 in 4 elementary school students now in the local school systems where I live. And when you see, tortillerias and you see panaderias spring up in small town Iowa, it's been such a huge change, but I think it's also been such a huge boost in benefits to the local community, and it's just exciting, the times that are occurring right now, and I think that is something that Senator King needs to be the Representative King needs to be very aware of, is that his district is changing, that people are beginning to build a relationship with the local immigrant community, and they're realizing the struggle and the hardships that they're going through, and I think that is what is drawing people to this issue, is relationships and people and stories, and that is what is powerful, and I think that is something that's missing from Representative King's speech, is the human aspect, because I doubt he knows any dreamers or any undocumented immigrants and their stories, and the way he talks about them, and so I think that's just something he needs to come to realization to, is that his district is changing and needs to be more in tune with what is occurring, because it's vastly different than the picture he's portraying, and I'm just excited for what is happening here, and it's very encouraging. And I'm just very excited for the bill that the Senator has been working on, and I think that now is just a very exciting time, and it's just the excitement is building, and I just really see this as a huge opportunity for this bill to come through. So I'm just really excited and thankful to be here, and yeah, thank you so much.
Before I start, I first want to thank the senators for being here, the fellow panelists, and you yourself, as well as the Iowa Dreamers that are present. Make some noise, Iowa Dreamers. Woo! Yeah! I also want to, on behalf of the American Foreign Service Committee, I want to hand some things over to both senators. One would be American Foreign Service Committee's idea of immigration reform, as well as a packet of about 437 postcards from different Iowans throughout a couple of past months who are in support of immigration reform, who want this reform to happen. Most of these are in Representative Latham's district, but several of them come from the representative who represents this district. So first off, I want to give this to Senator Harkin and Senator Durbin. And one last thing, I'd ask that both senators please sign a postcard, which is really easy to do. Just sign your name. Here you go as well. All right, so I guess my turn to tell my story. My story is similar and different to every other dreamer's, due to the fact that when my family came to the United States, we came on a tourist visa. My earliest recollection was us being on the Greyhound bus at the age of 3, and I remember my little brother, my now big brother, my little brother throwing up on the bus, on this Greyhound bus. So I've grown up in Iowa since I was 3 years old. I'm originally from Puebla, Mexico. My mom was a lawyer in Mexico. My dad was a firefighter, taxi driver. You know, he did any job to bring money to the family. And due to the economic situation in Mexico, we had to come to the United States. My family originally planned to be here only for a couple of years, but the situation in Mexico deteriorated even worse, so we decided to stay. I was not aware of my undocumented situation, my undocumented status, until I was getting ready to go to college, essentially my end of junior year at Dowling Catholic High School. And my dad told me, I was coming back from hanging out with my then girlfriend, and he told me, he's like, Hector, I want to talk to you, come with me to the car. And he basically told me the story of how we came to the US and how our tourist visa had expired when I was still in elementary school. At that time, I said, all right, no big deal, I'm gonna be fine. I don't really need to drive or anything. But as I graduated Dowling, I realized that I couldn't go to a state university. I couldn't go to continue on my education due to the fact that I wasn't eligible for state scholarships. I wasn't eligible for federal grants or federal loans. I wasn't eligible to the things that my classmates were. I then took the initiative, along with my fiance, Tess, who's out there, to go and visit a American Friends Service Committee, where the legal service director explained to me my particular situation. Understanding my situation and everything that it meant really opened my eyes to what I had to do to overcome this situation that I faced. So since I graduated Dowling, I've now just completed my associate's degree at community college. I will now be attending Drake University, and I have dedicated myself in my spare time to reach out to other Latino youth, to engage them and tell them, don't let your undocumented status prevent you from achieving your goals. For myself, thankfully, I want to give a shout out to my family. Thank you for sending me to Dowling, where they really drilled it into that education is key for the future. You really need to get educated. You really need this. And throughout the entire time I've been in the U.S., I've always heard that message that education is key, and we need to continue educating ourselves. We need to get involved, because even though we have this undocumented status, thankfully I got deferred action, so I'm okay for a couple of years. We can't allow ourselves to fall on this road where we think everything's going to be fixed, or we can just lay in the background and just have other people take the initiative. We need to be out there in the forefront. We need to be engaging our representatives, our senators. We need to be out there and telling the Iowa people, telling our representatives, especially the representative who represents this district and my representative, Representative Tom Lathan, that we are here. We might not get media coverage like the Dreamers in California, the Dreamers in the Eastern Coast, but we are here, we are present. We've been here for several years. I want to give thank you to Senator Dick Durbin for introducing the Dream Act back in 2001. In 2001, I was 8 years old, roughly about 3rd grade. I had no idea that something that had happened so long ago would have an impact now, because my parents, they believed that the Dream Act would have passed, and they would not have had to tell me that I was undocumented. So I am here because of the non-passage of the Dream Act, and for me to be here now, 12 years later, looking back, it really shows how we need to come together and we need to keep advocating for this comprehensive immigration reform, because we really need this. I don't want to wait another 12 years and have my now 9-year-old brother turn to me and say, hey Hector, what happened to the immigration reform? How come you're still undocumented? What happened? I don't want that to happen. I want to tell him, Sebastian, we were at the forefront of this battle, of this struggle, and we helped the passage along with other Latino leaders. And I really want this reform to happen. And I want to tell our representatives directly, you hold basically the power to do that. You hold the power to say, we want to bring this up to a vote, House Representative, House Leader Boehner, we want to bring it up to the vote. And for me, my point of view is, what do you have to lose? What are you afraid of? If the bill doesn't pass, then you know what? The Latino community can regroup, we can say it didn't pass, we need to look forward, we need to move on. And if it does pass, then we can all rejoice. But that's not the end of the struggle. For us, for the dreamers here in Iowa, we need to continue, even if this bill completely fails and whatnot, we need to continue with this struggle for Iowa. Right now, those with deferred action, even myself, we still can't get federal loans, federal grants, and whatnot. We still can't get those scholarships. We need to continue that struggle. The struggle to get our driver's licenses was difficult as well. And the whole emphasis that we need to continue moving on, because if we don't stand up front, we don't tell them, hey, you know, I may be an immigrant from another country, but I'm Iowa, and we deserve the same rights that you do. If we don't do that, then all of this won't be for nothing. We need to continue moving forward. We need to continue fighting. We need to continue telling our representatives, calling them, you know, visiting their offices, and telling them we want this reform to happen, and we are here. As those postcards show, 400 some Iowans want this reform to happen. As Senator Harkin, Senator Durbin said, 48% of this representative's own district wants this reform to happen. So they can't deny those facts. And I can say other dreamers want this to happen for all of us.